Canine Scout circled a tree and barked sharply, while the officers around him immediately stopped and scanned the area. Flashlights swept across the woods as deputies carefully searched the ground, the bushes, and the surrounding trees. Despite their careful search, there was nothing they could see. There were no movements and no suspect anywhere in sight. The forest appeared completely still and silent. Yet Scout refused to leave the spot. The dog stood firm beneath the tree and continued barking with determination, clearly convinced that something important was there. Scout had detected something they could not see. 30 minutes earlier, deputies from Dixie County had received a call reporting that a burglary was in progress at a shed located in Cross City, Florida. The caller had reported suspicious activity around the property and believed someone was actively breaking into the shed. Deputies responded quickly to the scene, knowing that time was critical in situations like this. When officers arrived, they immediately discovered that 2 suspects were involved in the burglary. One of them, a woman later identified as Nicole Hillisland, was caught almost immediately. She had attempted to hide inside a metal drum near the shed. However, the drum was barely large enough to contain her feet, and officers quickly noticed her hiding place. She was taken into custody without much resistance. But the second suspect had already made a different decision. Instead of hiding nearby, he chose to run. He rushed into the dark woods that surrounded the property and quickly vanished from sight. The darkness and thick vegetation of the forest made it nearly impossible for officers to follow him with their eyes alone. For most criminals, disappearing into the woods in the middle of the night feels like the perfect escape. However, that night, the suspect had made one critical mistake. He had chosen to run in a county where Canine Scout was on duty. For Canine Scout of the Dixie County Sheriff's Office, the hunt had only just begun. Scout was not just another police dog. Within the department, he had built a reputation as something close to a legend. Scout had completed 8 full years of service working alongside law enforcement officers. During those years, he had helped track down hundreds of suspects who were eventually arrested. His training had given him advanced scent discrimination abilities, allowing him to isolate and follow the specific scent of a suspect, even when other human scents were present. Scout had successfully tracked suspects through rain, across muddy terrain, through dense forests, and even in complete darkness. Conditions that would stop most search teams rarely slowed Scout down. In fact, throughout his entire career, Scout had never missed a case once he had been given a scent to track. Because of his remarkable performance, Scout had become highly recognized within the law enforcement community.
Years. Scout recently received a Medal of Valor, a Medal of Distinction, and was also certified as a patrol canine.
To the officers who worked with him every day, Scout was far more than a trained dog. He was a trusted partner in life or death situations. When a suspect disappeared into difficult terrain, Scout was often the difference between losing the trail and making an arrest. Every one of his skills made him the perfect canine officer for this mission. However, even legends eventually face situations that test their abilities. The suspect, later identified as Yates Jr., had run deep into the woods while attempting to escape. During his desperate sprint through the darkness, he accidentally dropped a baseball cap. For most people, that small item might not have seemed important. However, for a trained tracking dog like Scout, the cap was a perfect scent source. All Scout needed was a single sniff. Deputies presented the cap to him, and Scout carefully inhaled the scent. Within seconds, he locked onto the trail. His body language changed immediately, signaling that he was ready to begin tracking. The canine team then moved into the forest, behind Scout. The entire team moved carefully, knowing that the suspect could still be somewhere ahead of them. Scout began pulling forward confidently as he followed the scent trail. For several minutes, the tracking seemed straightforward. Then something unusual happened. Scout suddenly paused. He lowered his nose again and circled the area. Then he began moving back toward a section of the forest he had already covered. The officers exchanged confused looks. It appeared that the suspect might have doubled back in an attempt to confuse anyone tracking him. This tactic is commonly used by suspects who are trying to escape from canine units. The officers carefully searched the area again, but they still found no sign of the suspect. For a moment, it seemed possible that the trail had gone cold. Some officers briefly wondered if the suspect had managed to escape after all. However, Scout soon picked up the trail once more. His body language suddenly stiffened with focus and he surged forward again. This time, he led the team deeper into the woods. After several more minutes of tracking, Scout suddenly stopped beneath a large tree. He began barking loudly while circling the base of the tree again and again. His handler watched him closely. Scout's behavior clearly indicated that the suspect was very close. However, the officers still could not see anyone nearby. The handler studied Scout's movements carefully. Scout continued barking and circling while staring upward. That was when the handler realized something important. Scout was not looking at the ground. He was looking up. The officers immediately shouted commands. They ordered him to come down from the tree. Scout was right all along. He had never been wrong about the suspect's location. After realizing that the officers had spotted him, the suspect slowly began climbing down from the tree. The moment his feet touched the ground, deputies quickly moved forward and placed him in handcuffs. The suspect was officially under arrest. He was then transported to jail to face charges related to the burglary. For the canine unit, it was another successful operation. Once again, Scout had proven himself to be brave, intelligent, persistent, and incredibly intuitive. He had demonstrated why he was considered one of the most reliable canine officers in the department. Scout might not wear a cape like a superhero, but every day he protects homes, helps officers capture criminals, and keeps communities safe. If you respect the dedication and bravery of canine officers like Scout, take a moment to leave a heart and salute every canine dog serving alongside law enforcement. Because when criminals believe they have escaped and the trail seems impossible to follow, these dogs continue the search. And in the end, the trail never lies.